and welcome to this short presentation called Understanding Stress. My name is Miffy Hode and I'm one of the development officers with Mental Health Ireland. So let's have a look at stress. Stress is a primordial response that we have within us, and it goes back to our days of being Neanderthal and living in caves. And if you imagine a Neanderthal man going about his business, hunting and gathering, and suddenly appears a saber-toothed tiger. Well, that saber-toothed tiger is a very real threat to his safety, to his life, to his food supply, to his family, and so on. And so the stress response is instigated in the caveman in order to protect him, in order to get him into a state of alarm, actually, in order to protect him. So I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So looking here, the stress response is governed by the amygdala and this very central part of the brain, which is known as the primitive brain or the animal brain or the lizard brain. It's got lots of names. But really, this part of the brain hasn't evolved very much ever since we were cavemen. This outer part of the brain is the part of the brain that has evolved as we have evolved as man. And so this is the part of the brain where we think critically, where we make sense of the world, and where we can be rational and make rational thoughts and decisions. So this part of the brain doesn't have those competencies. What this part of the brain does is it responds to threat. So if there's a sense of threat to safety or any kind of sense of threat, then this part of the brain is activated and goes into panic stations, into a state of alarm, which is known as the stress response, or commonly known as the fight or flight response. Sometimes it's known as the fight, flight, freeze. So what it means is that this gets the body into a state where our caveman can either stand and fight saber-toothed tiger, so fight the threat that's in front of us, or take flight, so that's run like Billy-O in the other direction from saber-toothed tiger, or get yourself to safety away from the threat. And then freeze is sort of like the deer in the headlights, where you kind of panic and don't do anything one way or the other. That's not so common, but it can be an element of stress. This is governed by the sympathetic nervous system and releases stress hormones into the system. So adrenaline, cortisol, and norepinephrine would be the three main stress hormones. There are others as well. But basically what adrenaline does is it's a very powerful hormone. It gets released into the system and it speeds up the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is the parts of your body that operate without us having to think about it. It all happens automatically. So that is our heart rate and our blood pressure, our breathing rate, our digestive system. Okay, so these are all speeded up. So your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up, your respiratory rate goes up, and your digestive system slows down, as a matter of fact. Okay, so your digestive system starts here at the mouth. We know where it ends. It's very long and very complicated, and very often one of the symptoms of stress is a mouth drying up. So your mouth might dry up when you feel stressed, and your throat might constrict, or you might get pains in your stomach or butterflies, or you might get cramps even. You might have to rush to the toilet as well, and that is all very common as a physical response to stress. You might sweat, and that's very common for people who feel stressed. Also, your muscles tense up. So that's really important when you've either got to fight or take flight, because your extremities, the oxygenated blood from your speeded up breathing goes out to the extremities, carried by the elevated blood pressure, to strengthen the muscles so that you can actually fight this thing or run away from it. Either way, you need that extra strength and that extra energy in your extremities in order to do that. The other thing that happens is that your brain is kind of speeded up, your thinking is speeded up. So you might have experienced an event where there was an emergency, and when you looked back on that emergency, you realized that you thought very quickly, or maybe you witnessed that in somebody else where they just seem to be able to think on their feet. And that's one of the aspects of adrenaline, that it makes you think quickly. It also enhances all your senses. So you hear better, you see better, all of your senses are enhanced, exaggerated almost. Now that's really useful when you are in a crisis situation and you've got a tiger on your tail. You really, really need all of those kind of senses and all of those physical experiences so that you can fight this saber-toothed tiger. Okay, it's really important. So let's say that you manage to slay the tiger, whatever you use, your spear or whatever, okay, but you have managed to slay the tiger. There's no longer a threat. You go back to the cave, the family are there, they welcome you back, they say fair play to you, you did a great job, come on in here now and sit down, and they make you a nice cup of tea or whatever it is that cavemen have in their caves in moments like this, and maybe a meal, and have a good old debrief about what just happened, and everybody's there. Yeah, God, look at the size of the teeth of that guy, and you did so well, and I love the way you just hit him on the head with your club, and you were amazing. And there's all this whole debrief, and slowly but surely the adrenaline stops flowing, and things in the body start to settle back down to normal levels, and you're tired. You're tired after that. Slaying tigers is exhausting work, right? And all that tension in your muscles, whew, you're exhausted. So you have a good old sleep. And the next day you get up and the threat is gone and everything is back to normal. And that's how the stress response works. That's what it's for. It's for emergencies, okay? And that is when the relaxed response instigates, okay? So this is where the relaxed response helps to slow back down the autonomic nervous system. So the blood pressure and the heart rate come back to normal levels, the breathing rate too. The digestive system kicks back in, and the adrenaline and all of the stress hormones are very toxic in the body. And so very often after a stressful event, there's a digestive elimination. And I'll leave that to your imagination, but sometimes that elimination comes north and sometimes it goes south, but usually it's fairly profound. And so that is the body's way of getting rid of the toxic, spent stress hormones. The sweating stops, the tension in the muscle stops, that super speedy thinking and super exaggerated senses, that all stops. It comes back to normal levels. Okay, so the relaxed response is also known as the rest and digest response. It's governed by the parasympathetic nervous system, and it helps to release happy hormones, or endorphins as they're known. Now there's over 40 endorphins in the brain and the body, but the most commonly known ones are oxytocin, serotonin and dopamine, and oxytocin is especially soothing. It is the hormone associated with love, with bonding, with safety and with courage. So oxytocin is very much a soothing hormone. And the relaxed response, or the rest and digest response, helps to slow down the autonomic nervous system. So there's good stress and there's bad stress. And I suppose the thing is that good stress is acute stress. So in the event of a saber-toothed tiger or similar, right, using our saber-toothed tiger just as an analogy, so that is an example of short-term emergency, and then it's over and done with. The threat is gone and the body can recover fully once the threat is gone. Chronic stress, on the other hand, is long-term. So that's where things are building up, where you're worrying about things on a long-term basis, where there's stuff happening in your life on a long-term basis, where there isn't much respite from the stressful experiences, and so it's persistent. And that persistent stress causes inflammation, because remember, all that adrenaline and stress hormones in your system are inflammatory because they're toxic in the system. This inhibits the endorphin production, so your feel-good hormones are inhibited as a result of the stress hormones never really going away fully. And it leads to ill health, both physical and mental. So it doesn't do your body physically any good, but neither does it do your mental health any good, because it's eroding away all the time at your endorphins and your feel-good hormones. And it can lead to long-term depression, it can lead to anxiety, and so on. So the thing to remember is that this brain, this part of your brain that perceives threat, right? It doesn't know the difference between fact and fiction. So it doesn't know the difference between a tree falling on you and worrying about an exam. Okay? And the difference being that one is an actual threat to your safety and the other is a perceived threat to your safety. Not passing an exam isn't actually going to kill you or injure you in any physical way. You might be disappointed, but that's a different thing. You don't need the fight or flight response in your body when you're thinking about an exam, because you don't need to be able to run away from it or face it down, if that makes sense. So this part of your brain doesn't know the difference. All it knows is the sense of threat. It doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. And so this part of your brain does. But remembering, when you're in a stress state, this part of the brain is activated, and this part of the brain where you think rationally and logically is deactivated. Okay? So the way to activate the part of your brain that does think laterally and logically and rationally is by reducing stress, and you do that through self-care and relaxation practices. So you reduce stress and you increase relaxation, and that helps you to flourish. So here are some ways that you can instigate the relaxation response. First is breath awareness and taking a slow and deep breath. This actually triggers the rest and digest response, the relax response. Belly breathing and slowing down the breath. It all helps to slow down the autonomic nervous system and instruct the brain that, hey, it's okay, we've got this. It's a perceived threat, not a real threat. Noticing tension in your body. So when you're tense, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it maybe in your jaw, in your shoulders, in your belly, wherever it is that you hold stress. Physical exercise is a great way of releasing this, and so too are progressive muscle relaxation techniques. They all help to reduce tension. So in progressive muscle relaxation, you'll tense up parts of your body, starting at your feet and working your way up through all of your body, including your hands and your arms. And you tense them up deliberately, and then you relax them and let them go. And it's a bit like gathering up the stress that's already there with a little bit more stress, and then relaxing and let it go. So the tension that's there, when you tense it even further, when you let go of all of it, what was there before and what you created yourself in tensing up. I hope that makes sense. Mindfulness practices are also ways of relaxing and help to soothe the nervous system, help to slow down the autonomic nervous system. And we will be talking about mindfulness in another one of these episodes. Getting enough fresh air is really important. So if you can do some outdoor activity, maybe exercise outdoors, get some headspace in nature, some time out, all of those things are really important for relaxation. Limit your caffeine and your sugar, because caffeine and sugar are stimulants and they mimic the symptoms of stress. They speed up the autonomic nervous system because they're a stimulant. So if you're already stressed and then you take a stimulant on top of that, it's going to make things worse. So eating plenty of fresh foods and also drinking plenty of water. Hydration is very important as well. Sleep hygiene is important. Getting a good rest is really important. It restores the body, especially when things are stressful. Now, the problem is that adrenaline in the system tends to keep you awake because of the way it speeds up your thinking and so on. So it's really important to practice some good relaxation time before bed in order to bring the stress levels down before you're going to sleep. Have a regular sleep routine and reduce your screen time, because screen time tends to be stressful as well. And then there's the 5 ways to well-being, which is also covered in another one of the episodes of these presentations. And the 5 ways to well-being can all help to go a long way towards reducing stress and boosting your well-being. So I'll just leave you then with this idea of just softening your forehead, unclenching your jaw, and relaxing your shoulders. And just by doing that in itself, you're just reminding your body that you don't have to hold tension in it. So I'll take this opportunity to thank you for your time and for listening. And I will speak to you again in the other episodes. One on resilience, one on mindfulness, the 5 ways to well-being, as well as this one on understanding stress. So bye for now.